screw their decorum. You know, yes, did he break the rules? Yes, but that's the whole point of civil disobedience, to break those rules. But Mr. Green himself, Congressman Green himself, explained why he did it. So I want y'all to peep that as well. He broke it down for you.
So what were you shouting to the president?
The president said he had a mandate. And I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. And I want him to know that his budget calls for deep cuts in Medicaid. He needs to save Medicaid, protect it. We need to raise the cap on Social Security. There's a possibility that it's going to be hurt, and we've got to protect Medicare. These are the safety net programs that people in my congressional district depend on. And this president seems to care less about them and more about the number of people that he can remove from the various programs that have been so helpful to so many people. It is the best way to get it across to a person who uses his incivility, against our civility. He is a person who has consistently been used incivility against civility.
That's a good point. That's a good line.
I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
So were you saying you have no mandate? Is that what you just said?
That's what he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only thing that you're protesting?
No, I have other things I'm protesting. And I'm also working on my articles of impeachment. This president is unfit. He should not hold the office. 34 felony convictions, 2 times impeached.
Sir, tell me one more time what you were shouting in the chamber.
That he has no mandate to cut Medicaid.
That's what you were saying over and over. Thank you, sir.
No mandate. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
That is interesting, right? Obama, had a mandate, but Republicans may say he didn't have a mandate for Obamacare. It's always a interesting tightrope to walk when you start talking about who has a mandate, and then talking about who has a mandate for a particular public policy. I mean, obviously, Medicaid helps the people. The people don't want Medicaid cut. They don't want Medicare to be imperiled. I agree with him, absolutely, 1,000%. But it's also interesting to see strategically and tactically how we use the language of mandate, basically saying the people have not given you their support. You are not empowered by the people to cut their programs. I mean, it's a very interesting tactic. He's right about the vulnerability of his constituents. He's right about the vulnerability medically and economically of the people in his district when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. So salute to him for speaking up. But it's not just him. He got carried out of that office or out of that chamber alone. But on his back, proverbially, were a whole bunch of members of Congress whose districts are saying the same thing, and really elderly people everywhere. Tragically, not enough people stood up and spoke out. I wish they'd all walked out. Wish they'd all stood up. Now, we saw a few people stand up after him. We saw Jasmine Crockett walk out. We saw a few others, Nikema Williams, Maxwell Frost. At least this was being reported here by some people in the room here. But it's not enough. He's also talked about articles of impeachment. I like the idea of reminding the people of how trash Donald Trump is. But the truth of the matter is he ain't getting impeached. He's just not. So the question is, what do we do? I think speaking up on these concrete issues like Medicare and Medicaid are helpful, not to get rid of Trump. Trump ain't going nowhere, but maybe to help prepare a legitimate left-wing response, not a Democratic response, not a liberal response, certainly not a neoliberal response, but a legitimate left-wing response to this Trump moment. Stop trying to beat Trump by playing to the center. How about talking about a real economic shift so that we have single payer healthcare? Why not talk about that? Now, this is where, again, the Congressional Black Caucus falls short sometimes. They'll offer a liberal solution that doesn't go far enough, that doesn't do enough to get us where we want to be or where we need to be as a nation. And it just becomes more fodder. Anyway, we got a lot of work to do, but shout out to Al Green for speaking up and speaking out about this. But I do want to point out again, Republicans heckle all the time. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, I mean, he called the police fast. I mean, fast on Al Green. But Republican members of Congress were shouting down Joe Biden. I ain't got to go back to him. They were shouting down Joe Biden. There were crickets. Nobody got ejected. Nobody got carried out. There were no consequences at all. And Trump, he used the moment to point Democrats as bitter and ungrateful, saying that they wouldn't even clap if he cured a disease or ended crime forever. He painted himself as a victim here, when in fact, he was simply being challenged for bad public policy, the same way that Republicans allegedly were doing for Biden or were doing for Obama. But somehow there are different standards